Good evening, everybody. Before we begin, please ensure your cell phones are off or on silent, and council members ensure your microphones are turned on. Today is April 1st, 2024. It is Monday. Today is a committee of the whole meeting for Barberton City Council. Before we begin our committee of the whole meeting, we do have individual committee meetings this evening, and we will start with street, sidewalk, and lighting with Ms. Beck.
Thank you, Mr. President. At this time, I'd like to call the Streets, Lighting, and Sidewalks Committee to order. It is Monday, April 1st, 2024 at 6:02 p.m. I am present as well as the rest of my committee and everybody else on council, as well as people marked on my chart or my thing here. We don't have any legislation at this time. We don't have anything pending at this time. And at this time, I'd like to open it up for miscellaneous discussion from my committee members. Anything you want to? Okay.
Other than, do we have a streets list yet?
So Todd is not here. He would be able to tell you about that. However, I did want to bring up during miscellaneous discussion that I have asked Mr. Tiadecki and Mr. Shreve to either one of them come up on our next legislative committee meeting to just kind of give us some updates on what's going on with streets and roads, things that we may have already passed legislation on, or things that are just now starting, where we are on those things. So give updates on that. So Todd may be next week. If not, it will be Mr. Tiadecki, and then the next meeting after that, whoever didn't go on the 22nd will go the next time and give some updates to us. I'd like to kind of do that periodically through the year, just so everybody here on council can have the update, because I know everyone gets a ton of questions about streets, so that way we can all get the update at the same time. So we streamline things a little bit. And if you guys have questions at that time, you can ask those questions, and we all get the update at the same time. Okay. Any remarks from the gallery at all? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
We are adjourned at 6:04.
Thank you, Ms. Beck. Next up is Environmental Health and Social Services with Mrs. Hager.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to bring the Committee for Environmental Health and Social Services to order. We are in Council Chambers, April 1st, 2024 at 6:05 p.m. All members of my committee are present, along with all other members of council and guests noted on my list. We have no new legislation at this time, no pending legislation. Do we have any miscellaneous discussion? Yes.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to, have you had an update yet from Matt or
Not yet.
anything from them?
I'm going to have a meeting with them this week.
Okay. Will this be your first meeting?
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
I talked to him on the phone. We had a really nice discussion, but yeah, I'm going to actually have a meeting with them and get some details down and stuff.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you. Just want to make sure you're getting what you need on that.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you, Chair.
Anyone else? Would like to point out, I met with Allison, who is in charge of Friends of 10. She's one of the directors. Very nice lady, learned a lot of very interesting information about what kind of clientele they serve. They're mostly clothing, food. People can come in and get something to eat if they need it. They had soup today. They're hopefully planning on part of the lot. They have just grass, hopefully starting a community garden. So I know, Emily, you stopped down last Thursday. If you get a chance, you do need to make an appointment with Allison because she's a school teacher, so her hours down there depend. Yeah, we talked about you too, Melanie. But yeah, if you have a chance, all good stuff. make an appointment with her, go down and meet her, see what they're all about, since they're one of our newest charitable organizations in the city. They'd like to make a bigger presence to help out more individuals, and, you know, would like to see how we can help them as they help the community. So, anything else from the body? Anything from the gallery? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
And we are adjourned at 6:07.
Thank you, Mr. Sager. Next up, Planning and Annexation and Codes with Mr. Heidick.
Thank you, Mr. President. Planning, Annexation, and Codes is Monday, April 1st, 2024, 6:07 in council chambers. The committee is present, which consists of Councilors Thompson, Harris, President Greer, myself as chair, and all others noted. Tonight, we have nothing. Is there any miscellaneous discussion from the body? From the gallery? Seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. We are adjourned at 6:08.
Thank you, Mr. Heidick. Last but not least, Finance and Personnel with Mrs. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to bring the Finance and Personnel Committee to order. It is Monday, April 1st, 2024, 6:08 p.m. here in council chambers. All members of the committee are present, which includes myself as chair, Mr. Heidick, Mr. Griffin, and President Greer. All other council members are also present, as well as guests as noted on my agenda sheet. We have a few requests for legislation, the first being a letter from Mayor William Judge requesting a resolution approving a memorandum of understanding between the City of Barberton, the Barberton Board of Education, and the Barberton Community Foundation. One reading and emergency wording is requested, and that is attached. Are there any questions regarding this? Mayor, is there anything you'd like to say about this?
No, it's a simple land swap with the schools and the foundation, all related to the industrial park there at Mill Street, Newell and Norton. So, the schools own the gravel lot on Norton Avenue. Part of the development of the Newell Street there is all on Newell Street. So we'd like to, the land swap includes taking some of the school property along Norton Avenue and then giving them some land on Newell Street, which that whole corner will really help them with their parking for students or staff, and give a better entrance way into the industrial park that's being planned for vehicles on North Avenue. That way the trucks and the employees from the industrial park are not so much on Middle Street, but the kids are going to be more versus North Avenue.
All right. Mr. Heidick.
Thank you, Chair. Who's gonna own the parking lot? If it's a proposed parking lot, who would own it?
Schools, I think.
The school,
Yeah.
along Middle Street, the school.
Okay. Does the city own any piece of property in this whole land swap thing?
Legally, we have to be in the chain of title.
So, how much are we paying for this?
We're not
Are we
paying anything.
paying anything for legal, for titles, for anything like that?
No, you literally sign it over and then you go right down to the next form and sign that. It happens that way. Legally, we have to be in the chain of title.
When it comes time to actually paving a parking lot and making it, is the school district paying for all the construction costs and all that,
No,
or?
I believe we're paying a portion of the construction for the parking lot along the street.
That the schools would own? So my question is, if the foundation and the schools have these properties and we do have to be involved, what is our financial, just to say it easily, why are we paying for any of it?
Our return on investment would be the income taxes generated from that whole project at the industrial.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
So I do have a question, because Because on here, under section 2, it does say that the city is going to pay for fees and costs to the title company and any other costs necessary. So title work does cost money, so the city is paying for that.
Yeah, I don't have the agreement in front of me. I don't know what the exact cost would be, but I don't believe it would be much based on it just being a...
Right, and title fees, I mean, I know title fees aren't exorbitantly expensive, but then you have like your tax stamp and filing it with the county. But, so, a couple more questions about that. I know that the city uses Kingdom Title quite a bit. Do we have like an ABA agreement with them, or any sort of like agreement that we have to use them?
No, we've used multiple title companies in the past.
Okay, I was going to recommend.
A lot of it depends on how quick and efficient they are.
Right. So do they ever give you like an estimate of fees before? Right. Okay.
They gave me an estimate of fees on a different project, and that the cost there, the sales cost was $54,000, and I want to say it was about $1,400 total cost. So here it's going to be obviously much less.
Right. Then I have another follow-up question about title, because later on, under section 3, I know you don't have it in front of you, but I feel like the language is a little bit ambiguous, or a little bit strange, or it leaves it open for interpretation, because over here we say that the city is paying for the title fees, but then when things flip over to either the district or the foundation, it does say the foundation will obtain title commitment and the policy of title insurance from the title company. Does that mean they are paying for their own title fees when it flips over to them? I would recommend that that language is put in there as they are paying for that cost, because it doesn't say that. They kind of, you don't want to leave things open for interpretation in contract, is what I would recommend to put in there. I mean, title fees aren't exorbitantly expensive, and this is, you know, between the school district and the foundation, but we're not always dealing with city entities, not city entities, but things that are for the city. We could be dealing with somebody else at another time that would, you know, we don't want to leave things open for interpretation in the future. Does that make sense? Okay.
Mrs. Beck, also, I see what you're saying, because I'm looking at 3B, and it also says, you know, the foundation will then transfer the Newell Street parking area to the city for the consideration of $1.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to said transfer, the city will obtain a title commitment for the Newell Street parking area from the title company. The city will obtain a policy of title insurance from the title company upon the transfer. Title insurance, is that expensive as well, or no? Is that ongoing? I don't.
Well, title insurance isn't like property insurance.
Mhm.
Is that what you kind of?
Yeah,
asking?
I'm not sure.
Okay. So a title fee is your insurance against whether or not the title company has missed something. So let's say, for instance, there was like an arrears on taxes or some sort of mechanics lien that the title company missed. That would be, and then somebody came to whoever owned this at whatever time in this exchange of chain of title. That maybe that mechanic who has a lien on that can't come back on the city foundation district. That is actually where we buy the insurance from. It's title's problem, basically.
Okay. Mrs. Gerhart?
Page 1 also talked about we pay environmental design group to assist the parties in the lot splitting. Do you know how much a design group usually costs?
Yeah, so that's in terms of the entire project. So we've been working with EDG on splitting the lots, so kind of sharing the cost. I know the foundation has paid some of that as well.
Okay, so we would get the land from the foundation and make it into a parking lot for the school, and then the school gives us land?
It reverts back to the school. One thing that, I believe that's in there.
It is.
So, we found out several years ago, there's a large chunk of Newton Park that is actually owned by the schools.
Okay. Okay. And then Newton Park, so this would just make Newton Park what we always thought it was, or would we do something with Newton Park, or
No.
just land? Okay.
Mr. Heidick?
Thank you, Chair. On page 3, 4A, it has the approximate cost of the work of that parking lot. It, again, just says approximate at $142,617 that the city would be liable for. Now, you said the return on investment would be, you'll protect, income tax to it, but for $142,000, Dr. Flaker, if I'm not mistaken, is he back there? Wouldn't that take roughly $7 million of taxable income to recoup $142,000
Did you say billion or million?
million?
Yeah, it should be, yes, I think so.
So in order for that complex to take off, we would eventually have to somehow recoup $7 million in taxable income, and we're not owning that parking lot. I just don't get why, if this is between the foundation and the school district, why we would pay for something like that in hopes of trying to reclaim that much income tax. But that just doesn't.
Well, the income tax isn't paid just one time, so, how many years does it take to get to that figure, right? How many jobs does it take? I'll have to pull my notes and get back to you on that.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Just that one. Well, that title insurance, you don't have to take it. It's not mandatory.
True. That's
So
true.
You can turn it down, especially if you know the people, the parties that are involved. You don't have to take it.
It's true, but it's also written into our contract that they do.
It's in here a few times, I think.
Mhm.
Like every time we trade property, we pay the title and the title insurance for it.
Any other questions or?
So it talked about, like, this has to be mutually beneficial between the Board of Education and the council, like the city. Is it mutually beneficial? I don't understand what the city, school gets a parking lot. Am I, sorry,
No.
I just be missing what we get?
Nope, it's a good question.
This helps move the development of that industrial park along. So if we did, is that? Maybe the parking lot further.
The paving and parking is part of the project cost.
Okay, so that's the cost.
Can I mention something about the benefit? So one of the benefits on the city side is to own the frontage then that the school owns now, saving us from building a road and utilities all the way into the development of the park. So the advantage to us is if we control all the frontage, accesses inside the park mostly happen off Norton Avenue, where there's utilities and a road where you can do a curb cut, and it would then become part of the development side. I think the advantage to the city then would be, is you now have a signal controlled light to get into both parking lots that the city, the school district would own both sides for the school's parking lot. So the school would own parking on both sides controlled by the signal to get in and out of, and it would kind of keep both parking lots close together. The advantage then to the school is also that if you resurface the lot when it's done, and that's what the cost represents, that's kind of a high-end figure, and put striping down, now you have two fresh parking lots. That's where the school believes there's benefit to this.
Where would the entrance be to the school park, new school park?
Off of Newell Street, at the existing signal. The signal would be replaced with a better camera-controlled signal.
So Norton and Newell.
Norton and Newell would be, the actual entrance to the parking lot would be off of Newell, directly across from where the existing lot is on the west side. You kind of have curb cuts, either going east or west into whatever lot you want to go in.
Okay.
you know just about how much of that is covered?
We received 350 from the one big grant. I don't have the details of exactly what it covers. It's everything that Mike was talking about. We're looking at another $500,000.
We're just into the construction plans with EDG. They haven't given us any more updated costs. As we were developing the cost of the parking lot, we tried to come up with a reasonable, based on today's numbers of what it would take to resurface and put paint down. And that's really the only cost of the parking lot. I mean, how much of that money splits? I haven't got the money splits for the entire project yet. I mean, that's the best number we have for the cost of that parking.
Okay. Is there any more discussion about this? Get back to my. All right, hearing none, can I have a motion to call for this? All right, do I have a second? Okay. I think we'll let this sit in committee until we have some answers, and then we can move forward. Yep.
I'd just like to ask, can we get a reason, specifics on why it wouldn't come out of committee? Just want to make sure that we stay on track.
Seems like we just have a lot of questions related to cost. And, you know, just questions stated before. Since the mayor doesn't have this in front of him, it's kind of hard for him to answer those questions as well.
I'll get you the answers, after council here,
Okay.
later this week. So if it does pass out of council committee, we'll have it before vote next week. If not,
We'll talk about it.
Bring it up next Monday. I don't know if you want to vote on it next Monday, if you bring out a committee next Monday.
Well, yeah, next week we don't have a meeting, but, yeah. Okay.
Are we good?
Mr. Heidick?
Thank you, Chair. My only concern is that without us owning any of this property, I don't see why we should be paying any of it. That's my only concern. The district's gaining a parking lot, the foundation's getting platted land. Yeah, I know we can help provide the infrastructure, but the school's gonna be the ones using it, the parking lot, more than we are. So we're just gonna pave them a parking lot? I don't understand that.
Yeah.
They're gonna be making more use of it than us. If they control it, if there's an event, you say that parking could help that kind of development back there. I see that, but if there's a state tournament or event with them owning it, they would have every right within themselves to close off that lot and charge people to park there. And then that negates any use for us, for anything back there. And yet we don't own any of it.
Yeah, that's where I'm at as well. Mr. Tiedecke has his hands
So
up.
I did want to just add one more thing. As part of your discussion, don't forget, we are gaining very large tracts of land with the Newton Park, which would be, right now at Newell Street, it's a square foot per square foot basis. Exactly 1 square foot along Norton is equal to 1 square foot of the parking area. So that is an exact square foot trade. With the addition of Newton Park, the land area, which is more than 1 soccer field plus the areas along the edge that is school, is also going in. So to offset that part of the square foot addition that we're gaining on the city side, so we're getting more square foot in 2 parts, that offset the school was accepting the value of the paving and lining of the parking lot for that portion of the trade. Did that make sense?
Yep. Go ahead.
It does, but at the same time, Mayor said that we were maintaining that area of Newton Park as it is, thinking that was ours. We're going to trade a free parking lot for, and forgive me for saying this, liability. if somebody would've got hurt on that park, those pieces of Newton Park, eventually it would have been found that the school district owns that. We're giving up parking and gaining liability.
But please remember that, if you recall several years ago, we went out for a study and to apply for some money to make a soccer complex. And that's where we discovered that there's a large tract owned by the schools. So we can't even apply for the grant if we don't own all the property. So I see what you're saying. It's been a liability for, gosh knows who long, right? Or how long. But this allows us, by acquiring it, allows us to reduce that liability, but also to go after some grant dollars to really improve that park. Since we'll have full, complete ownership.
Thank you.
I mean, it's smack dab in the middle. It's like, I don't know how no one looked at this before.
Okay. Okay, we're gonna, is that everything you need, Ms.?
Counselor Hager, I think.
Oh,
you have
did
your
you
hand up.
have-
I just had one question. If, we do end up taking over this piece of property in Newton Park, especially because that's in my ward, we have very limited resources as far as maintenance for our parks. We do have seasonal, but, I mean, I've seen Newton Park sit empty for years and years and years and years. You know, still, I'm questioning the benefit of, I mean, I understand the continuity of the whole property and everything, but still, what benefit if we don't get a grant for a sports complex? You know, that property's just gonna sit there and end up not getting mowed because it's down in that area where it's not near a lot of traffic and people don't see it. And I've got constituents that would love to just go over and mow a small part of it so they can start a little league baseball team and have kids get out there in the neighborhood and be able to practice and stuff. But because of our limited resources as far as attending our parks and mowing and stuff, the kids can't get over there and play. And if a parent does try and go over there, they're going to get in trouble with the unions or, you know, whatever, because they're not allowed to mow that because it is union workers. So that's my concern with that.
Well, Newton Park has been, and currently is, for many years, been the home of youth soccer. So both springtime and fall time. So it's being utilized throughout the year. I want to say there's 4 soccer fields. And on a Saturday morning during the league play, we'll get 100 people there. So it is being maintained and it is being used, and that's why we thought with it being somewhat flat, we put in some retention ponds so it doesn't dry out and it can be a soccer complex. But we have to own the whole thing. So we did not fence it off to say, hey, we can't use this because this is owned by the schools. We want to make sure that the kids have a place to play.
Mr. Cheatham, did you have something?
Yes, I did. What size is this parcel are we talking? And is there a price on that?
I don't know the exact size. I can find that out.
I have an answer. It's 3.96 acres.
Thank you.
And I don't know what an appraisal would at. If it was, you know, the side of the road or something that really wasn't usable, this is smack dab in the middle.
Okay. All right, we're gonna move on for now, and we'll talk about this at the next committee. So this will just stay in committee for now.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so next up, we have a letter from Justin Greer, President of City Council, requesting legislation to amend ordinance number 73-2022, employee compensation and pay grades for non-bargaining employees. If we want to discuss this, I need a motion to invoke Council Rule 702 to suspend Council Rule 302, the 10-day rule.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. And a second. I'll second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So, sorry, let me flip through all my MAU stuff here. Okay, so with, first of all, did everybody receive the request? Are there any questions regarding this? So for the changes that President Greer is requesting is to remove bullet point 3 under section 1 from the original request. And the second is to modify bullet point number 4 under section 1 to state City Council authorizes the authority of hired employees between January 1, 2021 through January 31st, 2024 to have the discretion to adjust wages up to step 4. Mr. Greer, is there anything you want to open it up?
Sure. I'll just provide a little feedback here. So,
Sure.
I believe it was 15/2024. I'm sorry, I was writing
Yes.
notes about something else.
Yep.
Was a piece of legislation that failed with the original compensation package. Granted, it did fail just because of emergency wording. In order to go through committee again, it could have been reconsidered, but committee did not want to reconsider it as written, since the chair was one of the members that opposed it. And reconsidering, it would have to come back to council as written. We couldn't remove emergency wording. So, being that it wouldn't be reconsidered, and talking with opposing members of council on this, this was a middle ground. This was the roadblock that was stopping this piece of legislation from moving forward. And that being said, this piece of legislation was brought to us by the HR director, Director Eisman. With updating the pay structure, it would help out with concerns of bringing people in, or the concerns with people leaving, increasing the pay wages. I decided just to take that one bullet point out of there, that roadblock, and still give the ability to attempt to move forward with this, because it's a good thing. What Mrs. Eisman has presented was a good thing. It was just being stopped by that one piece. And there was no compromise, either from council nor the administration. And after talking to council members, didn't really get the feel that there was no amendments made at the end of the day, right? There was nothing made, it failed. And this is a good piece of legislation. The administration has stated such, and this is a middle ground compromise. So I felt the need, wouldn't do this normally, but I felt the need to bring it back and put it back in front of council, starting from the middle point. Now, if there's things that need to be added, I just highly encourage the administration and the council to work together to either add or take away as needed this time, because this is something that has been expressed is important, and I personally do feel that it needs to move forward some manner, just not die on the floor. So,
Mr. Griffin?
I need some more explanation on the difference between Mrs. Eisman and what we're doing now. I just need a little more clarification on the first part that was turned down. I didn't think there was any increase in money the first time. I thought it was just in years that you would get the pay raise. Am I correct?
Do you have the chart, Mon?
Yeah. This chart that was given to me by Ms. Eisman?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
so
Yeah.
can I?
Go ahead.
I'm going off memory here. So the original, this is the same as far as that. So the original adjusted the pay scale
Okay.
for steps 1 through 4 on there, right? So it increased it, giving the pay wage that we normally would do, mind you, right? That there was no contention in that. The original statement also had, correct me if I'm wrong, it was 7 amendments made to line 2 that stated that council would remove or relinquish the authority to authorize that, right? So it was basically saying that the administration, the original one was saying that the administration, the hiring authority for any of those employees could then be upgraded up to step 4 at their discretion. That was what the sticking point was with,
Their discretion.
right, at their discretion, right? It was line 4, believe it now it's line 3, and I really should have this piece of paper, stated that employees from January 1st, 2021, and if I'm saying anything incorrectly, Chair, please
Nope, you're-
jump in.
you're good.
January 1st, 2021 to January 31st, 2024.
Yep.
It would also give the hiring authority the discretion to go back to them and change their pay grades that would then be enacted their next following pay. I'm assuming
Up
that's
to
what
step
that's.
4.
Up to step
Yeah.
4. So there's nothing in mine that I changed pay scale wise. I kept the same language in there for that.
Okay, you changed the year, right?
No.
No?
I
He
took
just took out the part of, without city council authorization.
Do you have the request letter that says it right
Yeah,
there?
took away discretion. My take on the discretion is, they hire them. I can approve a job opening or add another, but how can I say that they have to come back to me for discretion to hire this person and give them a raise? What authority do I have? 'Cause I don't know the person, I don't know their job title, I don't know what they do. Why do I have to, okay? You understand?
So as a council person is what you're saying?
Yeah, as a
Okay.
council person.
Gotcha.
I didn't hire this person, right? I don't know the job description. I don't know anything about what they do or whatever. Why should I say, my approval? You have to come back to me before I give them a raise? I don't know nothing about their job. That's my take of it. You know, maybe I'm completely wrong, but that's what I.
Oh, do they?
Mr. Head?
Thank you, Chair. By not allowing the up to step 4 without council authorization, are we, when we entertain new rules, going to redefine the committee and make an employment committee? Because that's in my head not the council's job. The people that are hired, we already have a say. If they're pay grade, whatever. It's the bosses that are doing these hirings. We have a say in those bosses. And I don't mind saying this because if we approve hiring somebody that's an idiot, idiots hire idiots. If we approve somebody that we feel can do the job, we have confidence in that person that they can hire people under them to do the jobs with them. We are legislators. We are not managers. We allow lateral transfers for police and fire. Am I correct, Director Eisman? Has that program been successful?
Yes.
Okay. In order to recruit and retain people for jobs, our bosses have to be allowed to do theirs. If they can't do theirs, then I'm sorry, what the hell do we have them for? Because if we're just going to micromanage our entire workforce, then for one, we could fire every director here and give ourselves raises because we'd essentially be doing their jobs. And that's not what we were elected to do. If the directors need to put a job opening out there, they've got to be able to say a pay range based on experience. I do the same thing when I hire in my business. I don't want to hire somebody that doesn't have experience at $20 an hour. But if they have experience, they're not going to work less than that. If we were to put somebody at certain steps in this without their boss's approval, they'd have to come to us, then that person hired on day one, mind you, they have to be trained in how we do things. The trainer is taking time away from doing their job. The jobs both have to be done. In the meantime, that person may only last 6 months because if they're hired at X rate, because that's all that we're allowed to do without council approval, the day they're hired, the next day, they're already looking forward for another job that makes more money. Hell, Walmart will probably pay them more. But if we waste our time training somebody that leaves in 6 months, now we have a vacancy again. Now the trainer has to hire another person, and the whole circle runs around. You're essentially paying 2 people to do 3 jobs because you got to keep taking time away to train a person that if they can't get to where they need to be, or they have the experience, they leave, next thing you gotta train another person. And how long is it until, that constant turnover and that constant battle, it wears on people. How long until the person training decides this ain't worth it? And now we have a bigger opening. I made this same argument years ago when we authorized to move the mayor, law, and finance director's pay. Because if things get so out of line, the talent pool that we can pull from out there is going to diminish greatly. And in the long run, cost us. Because now we're going to be forced to pay somebody that doesn't know what they're doing. And we're stuck looking like, how come they can't do the job? We're paying them this much. Well, we shot ourselves in the foot there. But the bottom line is, the failed version with that lets the bosses be the bosses and let us continue to do our job. We have no problem when Director Weaver comes in and authorizing $1 million fixture to something. But yet, how many employees would this affect, Director?
There are 13 positions in pay grades 1 through 6. Only 5 of them are unclassified. 8 of them are classified, meaning they are ruled by Civil Service Commission.
And if, in a hypothetical situation, you probably don't have this number off the top of your head, but if you changed all of them to step 4,
I have a roundabout figure. It wasn't exact. I did share with Mr. Flaker. I did provide it to several council members, the 3 that voted no. It's approximately, let me pull it right here. These are not exact because it would take quite a while to calculate. It will be between 21 and 30,000. 30,000 being extremely high. It's going to be between 30 and 21.
for all of them total, if they were all bumped
Move up to 4.
overnight?
Not all of them were recommended to go to 4.
Okay, so the ones that were recommended would be about
It
30,000.
was for every bump that was made, for every employee that was able to, and pay grades 1 through 6, the expenses between 21 and 30,000.
Okay, so roughly
Which is-
roughly 30,000 then,
At the most.
to be able to at least retain people and recruit people and whatnot. So for almost 5 times that, we can pave a parking lot that we aren't even gonna own. I'm just putting an example out there. We just talked about that. 142,000 to pave something that we don't own. But yet, we can't give our bosses the authority to spend 30,000 more dollars on the people we need to do jobs and keep the city functioning properly. I tell you, if we can't let our bosses do that, then anybody that says yes to paying 142,000 to pave something that we don't control, that's upside down to me.
Mr. Harris?
I'll
did you-
pass.
The sheet you gave us, Miss Iceman, has 10 people on it. Now you're saying 13. I've heard different numbers between 8 and 26 people it's
That's not
affected.
the question he asked me, Mr. Harris. He asked me how many people, in terms of, if you talk about all the positions that are in pay grades 1 through 6, there are 13. The
Okay.
adjustments only affect the list that I gave you.
Okay.
Some are already in at least step 4 or higher.
Are these all the people that have been hired between January 1st, 2021 and January 31st,
That's correct.
2024?
Yes.
Mr. Cheatham, did you have something?
Yes, I do. I agree with Councilman Heide that we should allow our people to do their jobs and not hinder them on that. However, I hope he said it in jest. We may be getting something on the return with the park. We don't know what that parcel is going to be worth and what the outcome of that can be by us owning the whole property. So, well said, Councilman Heide. I pass.
Are there any other comments? Yes.
We'll find middle ground here in what was just said. correct me if I'm wrong, we can't hire people above step 1 as long as they come to council, correct?
No.
With council approval, yes, we can.
No, we cannot, not in pay grades 1 through 6. Currently, we cannot come to council in pay grades 1 through 6. You took out.
Would you be opposed to adding language to come to council, pay grades 1 through 6?
The original request is what you took out.
And still come to council, not an open checkbook here, but still come to council for those positions?
Through any adjustments 1 through 4, that,
If I may, Director?
yeah.
Then I'll go back to what you're suggesting, Mr. President. If that be the case, then we definitely would have to have an employment committee.
Well, it's been this way since the beginning of Barberton, so why is it a huge issue right now is what I'm saying. Let's try to find a middle ground. It's not going to come out of committee if that don't change. Something's not here, right?
I'll
So-
motion this other committee.
I just have a question, Mrs. Eisman, and I apologize because I feel that we have talked about this already. I feel, and I could be wrong, that what we have in place currently prevents hiring employees at a higher pay grade than people who have been here for 3-4 years. How does this help prevent that?
So, that's not correct. So currently, my original request went in order. Specifically, there was no, everyone agreed that we needed to bring the first 3 pay grades up to matching. No, none of us had an issue with that, I believe. The option to be able to hire in pay grades 1 through 6 up to step 4 was for recruitment. It is, a lot of you haven't hired. I do the hiring here, okay? It is hard to get candidates to apply when I can only start at this amount, okay? I'm asking for a little bit of a range. If you look at the pay scale that I gave you, it's not an exorbitant amount of money. I'm not saying thousands aren't worth a lot, but it's just to give a little bit of leeway to increase our candidate pool and to get more qualified candidates. Now, in tandem with that, if that happens, I wanted to be able to do that for the employees that had been here and to prevent new employees coming in and making more money than current employees in the same position. So that was the goal, the reason for the 8 individuals that would be affected, okay? That was the reason. Now, we already do this in pay grades 7, 8, and 9, up to step 6. I want to do it for the other positions as well. They are just as important. And we need those people in those positions.
You said it affects 8 people, but it also affects 2 more on that.
That's in a different, that's different. It doesn't,
It still affects them, correct?
the pay grade adjustment does, but it's not in terms of placing them at a step, correct?
And I don't agree with the fact that we're giving, someone's going to end up with a $6,000 pay raise. And don't have a year on until May 1st.
Okay, well, I mean, that is my role.
I mean, our police officers' environment don't even get that in their contract.
Then I
Over
Police
a
are
matter of,
paid- Police are paid based on their experience, right? These employees are not. They have to start at step 1.
I understand that.
Okay, so that's what I'm asking for.
I
The same that
understand
happens
that.
in police and the same that happens in fire. These are not entry-level positions.
Mrs. Hager.
Just, so what you're saying is the person that he's saying would get a $6,000 pay, bump up or compensation for past years. You're just bringing them up to what they, if this passes, what they would have been hired in at now. So it's not
Yes.
necessary that they're making like a ton more money.
Correct.
You're just bringing them up to what, if this passed, what they would be hired at now.
Correct.
Okay.
So also to mind you though, Mr. Harris, the person you're talking about is already going to go up $3,000 on May 1st, so it's not a $6,000 increase. It would actually be a $2,224
Still,
Okay.
it's a lot of money.
It's 2,000 though, not 6.
Still a lot of money.
And also, just as one of the appointing authorities, if the original request would have passed, it doesn't mean that it would have just automatically happened, right? Because as you mentioned, we have great employees here, but I don't run every employee. So I would be with the department head of that employee, make sure that they're doing their job, that they are on track, if they're newer. So it wouldn't be a total, hey, it passed, everyone gets an increase that's affected by this. I would meet with the employee and their department head to make sure that, it is kind of warranted. It wasn't just a free-for-all.
Mr. Heidick?
Thank you, Chair. So, based on what you just said, Mayor, you don't manage every employee? The executive branch doesn't? So why would the legislative in this instance? Now I'm gonna give you another example here. This was pay grades 1 through 6 on the original request, maybe hired up to step 4. One of the pay grades has somebody called a distribution foreman for the utilities department. Sounds like a pretty important job. If I had those kind of qualifications and I've been working in something like that in the private sector for maybe 5 years and said, you know what, Barberton's got an opening, I'm gonna come there. They would have the ability to put me at about $65,000 without council approval. Right now, I'd have to walk in at 55, I'm probably gonna laugh in your face. And guess what? We just lost a potential distribution foreman because the boss didn't have the ability to match the experience from the outside. Like I said, with police and fire lateral transfers, we can do that. We can't do that in the with private sector employees. We can't entice. I mean, I'll say it one more time. If the bosses can't do their job, then I'm not going to sit here and do it for them. And one more thing, and Councilor Harris, when you say the officers don't get that kind of pay increase for something like that, I'm not going to bite my tongue on this, then their negotiator was piss poor. Because if that's what they agreed to in their contracts, then I can't help that. So.
But you voted for it.
I voted for it. No, I'm saying if the police negotiators couldn't get that kind of raise, that's their negotiators' fault. We, as the council, are not the negotiators.
Right.
When the director and the mayor sit down across the table from the unions, they come out with the contract, and yes, we approved the contract, but didn't we trust
And I
them?
think your
Didn't we
lateral
trust them
transfers-
to negotiate that contract? President Greer, were you involved in any union negotiations?
No.
Okay, so we trusted the people that are supposed to be doing that to do their job, and we didn't intervene on that. Why would we do it for administrative assistant to the police? Why do we feel the need to intervene there? That's my last point.
I do want to say that the 13 positions that are currently in those pay grades 1 through 6, that's only 5.8% of our employees.
Yes.
Would there be, if this is stepping on toes, I apologize, it's not how I'm intending the question. Like to define what would bring you in at like a step 4? So maybe we are looking for this degree or this amount of experience and that's what would let us offer you a step 4 to come in?
We do not have an exact, if you're asking for a rubric, we do not, no. But I mean, those are the thank you, Mayor. You have to have the minimum qualifications, of course, as per the job description, but it would also be based on your experience and your education.
Yes.
I just want to say, in this instance, I have to agree with Mr. Hayden. We have to let them do their jobs. This is not just somebody walking in off the street with no experience whatsoever being automatically hired into pay grade 4. This is Ms. Eisman and the mayor sitting down, interviewing them, and if they Eisman and her hiring people the ability to make that decision as to whether a person is qualified enough to not just come in at step one. Or we are going to limit the pool of people that we have working, coming in to apply for jobs or staying in jobs. We are going to limit our pool to, kids that are just barely graduating high school, because that's the only people that are going to want to come in and work at that wage. We're not talking about millions and, to me, every dollar in the budget counts, every penny counts. But we're not talking exorbitant amounts of money, to where she can't, they can't make a proper decision without us having to approve it.
I do have a quick question. Ms. Heisman, how much does it cost to hire someone? Let's say you hired someone to onboard them. About how much does that cost?
That varies by position. It's probably, including the background, the examination, it's probably a couple $1,000s. I know for police and fire, it's more.
Right. So let's say that this goes down because somebody's getting a $6,000 raise. And then people, let's say somebody leaves, to replace that person would cost more than $6,000. I guess is the point I'm trying to make. Is that true?
Well, not
We
the
could potentially be
6,000,
losing
but
more than
if I look at the numbers, yes. The cost differential with most of them are, everyone's already getting a bump this year because of an increase.
Mhm.
Okay. So then they will get an additional based on the proposed, and most of them, I would say, would average 2,000. So yes, it is going to cost more to replace them, depending on the position. With advertising, the cost of the conditional job offer testing, and you're not also taking into account the time it takes for myself and the managers in order to do the interviewing and screening the candidates. It is our time.
That was a good question. Thank you. This is a big deal, and I spent the past couple weeks talking to Mrs. Eisman, our law director, Lisa Miller, who's unfortunately not here today, and I don't like being in this position, to be honest.
That's what we asked to be up here for.
I understand the need to bump up the pay scales, and I just have a hard time making a change, like Mr. Gere said, something that's been in place forever.
This hasn't been in place forever. That started in, I believe it was, the initial pay grade was done in 2017.
Okay.
So we're there with the allowed to hire with those.
Within that?
Yes.
Okay.
Ms. Eisman,
Yes.
real quick, we don't use pay grades 1 and 2 at all, do we?
We do not have any positions right in 1, but we do have a position in pay grade 2. It is not filled because mainly the wage.
What?
It's an admin assistant position.
Yeah.
I just want to ask a question. I'm not, I'm just genuinely curious, Director. Sorry, it slipped my mind here. How many, I apologize, how many, do you recall how many employees or potential employees flat out said no to a job because of pay that showed up?
I don't know that number, but yes, I have.
Okay. A handful, probably not.
Because they think that we can do something.
Yeah.
So I have to start all interviews saying, like, there is no leeway with the salary.
No positions, no names. Since you've been associated or close to the human resources part of this, are you aware of any positions that left due to pay? This specific reason? You don't, yes or no?
Almost all of them.
Okay.
We've lost, I could run through a list on the non-bargaining on the amount of employees that we have
Yeah.
lost, yes.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
Mr. Cheatham.
And I could tell you of someone that left because of our equipment.
Mr. Heidick.
Thank you, Chair. Final thought. As Chair, you could, and on the prevailing side, you could reconsider the original. You could motion for President Greers to come out of committee to the floor, or we could do nothing.
Yeah.
You're the chair. Your choice.
Or we can
What was that?
wait. You
That
can
would
hold
be-
it.
That would be the do nothing.
Yes.
I'm more than willing to motion it out of, President Greer's out of committee. But I would prefer it to be reconsidered. I can't do that, I was not on the prevailing side, so,
Considered to be failed?
yes.
But that would have to be as is with the emergency wording.
Right.
You know what, let's, sorry.
I would just encourage whatever we do, we work on it and be timely with it. That's just my input.
Yeah.
Whatever direction it goes, it needs to be timely.
Okay.
Timely, I mean, we've had this before, we're talking about it currently. What would you suggest? Seems to be a stalemate for some people.
Look, contrary to what I submitted,
What's the whole?
I don't hold a thing in this. I submitted this as a outsider, third-party, middle ground.
I appreciate your work,
Right.
but it's.
So,
The chair's more than free to ask for a motion for the proposed one.
I'd like to know, I mean, I know most of you had given your thoughts, but I understand that this is in Finance Committee, and there's only 4 of us on this committee, but, you know, if there's any other suggestions, I'm open to it. Mr. Cheatham.
I'm still trying to understand what the holdup is. You
Yeah.
know,
7 words.
What's that?
7 words.
7 words?
7 words.
What are the 7 words?
Actually, I will tell you right now. That council here, well, it's a little bit more, but there's 7 bold words in this that were changed. Council hereby enacts a step procedure whereby all employees hired in pay grades 1 through 6, the word was changed from must to may, to be hired at, that was changed to up to, which is 3 words so far. Step 1, and then 1 was changed to step 4 without council authorization. So those 7 bold words is what's changed. That's the holdup. Am I wrong? Did I count wrong? 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8 words, sorry.
Who's the authority of the hired employees? Is that myself, or are you talking about the appointing authority?
The hiring authority, whoever had the authority to hire that individual. Right?
I mean, I hire all employees.
So you'd be the hiring authority?
I hire them, but I'm not the appointing authority for all employees. Does that make sense to council?
So we need to add words then to appointing and hiring
So
to this one?
to that point, my suggestion, I'm sorry for interrupting here, so we're not going off on a tangent here. Number 3 on that line was altered to say Barberton City Council authorizes the authority of employees hired. So it's open-ended. I don't have appointed authority in there. So So it'd be open-ended to the authority of employees hired between January 1st, 2021.
What would be different?
I can
Oh, yeah, go
I
ahead,
guess.
sorry.
The only difference is that in the proposed legislation that I submitted, we removed the change that said that that they can go up to step 4 without council authorization. That's basically what the new one was.
Mr. Griffin?
I still say, I'm not in a position of hiring anybody, grading anybody, tell them they can't be promoted. I can't tell them that what pay grade they should be in because I didn't hire them, I don't know their qualifications or nothing. And I personally went to other cities and talked to people that work for Barberton, and the reason they left is because of money. And if we can't give the people that hire them the authority to give them a raise or whatever, we shouldn't even be, we can't do it. I can't do it. So the only thing we can do is revisit Mrs. Eisman's request or make a motion for Mr. Greer, either one, because I think we talked enough on this, and go from there.
Mr. Cheatham?
Have they ever come to council to ask our approval to hire someone?
Yes, sir.
How many times?
One since I've been here. Is that correct?
Mr. Cheatham, that's for pay grade 7, 8, and 9. If you make more than step 6.
Okay. I don't see what the issue is.
And we've done that for Mr. Tiadecki and Chief Iono, Jeff Redbird. It does, right?
Okay.
We've already suspended the 10-day rule on this. so-
Right, yep. So let's do something here. Okay. After hearing everybody's thoughts on this, not just the committee, I feel that it's in the best interest to revert back to what Mrs. Eisman originally requested. So I would like to motion to call for the reconsideration of ordinance number 15-2024.
I will second the motion to reconsider.
And nothing else needs to happen. We'll just vote on it the next legislative meeting. As is.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Thank you for the discussion, and Mrs. Eisman for...
Thank you.
They can,
Okay.
good, noted. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Don't believe we have any pending. I'll go ahead and open it up for miscellaneous for finance and personnel. Hearing none, can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So
I will second that.
We are adjourned at 7:12.
Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. That concludes our individual committee meetings this evening. Let's take a special 3-minute break. And come back and continue our committee of the whole.
I want the cannon from Edgewood.
7.62 rounds.
All right, we're going to begin here shortly.
Don't even propose that.
I'd ask one more time that if you have a cell phone, make sure it's silent or off, and council members, ensure your microphones are turned on. I've been receiving some feedback that we need to speak into the microphones a little bit more directly.
Yes, sir.
If we could. It's better that I answer it and relay it than you get the heat. Don't call me sir. I work for a living.
Yes, sir.
All right, today is Monday, April 1st, 2024. This is the committee of the whole meeting for Barberton City Council. I call this meeting to order at 7:26 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Citizens addressing council. I would just note that there was one earlier. They ended up leaving. Mayor, did you want
There
to?
was a gentleman here who wanted to address council. He had to leave. He did leave some things that he wanted the opportunity for council to grab. So I haven't looked at it yet, but I'll have it here if council wants to take one.
Thank you, Mayor. There were no other citizens addressing council. I will just ask one more time here. No? All right. Committee reports. We'll start with street, sidewalk, and lighting with Mrs. Beck.
Thank you, Mr. President. We met this evening in City Council chambers, and we didn't have anything to talk about today. So with that, I pass.
Thank you, Ms. Beck. Environmental Health and Social Services, Mrs. Hager.
Thank you, Mr. President. Environmental Health and Social Services met in council chambers this evening. All members were present. We spoke briefly about Friends and Tents, and with that, I pass.
Thank you, Mrs. Hager. Planning, Annexation, and Codes, Mr. Heidick.
Thank you, Mr. President. Planning, Annexation, and Codes has nothing to report. With that, I pass.
Thank you, Mr. Heidick. City Properties, Parks, and Recreation, Mr. Cheatham.
Thank you, Mr. President. City Parks and Recreation met March 25th, 2024, and we did confirm Cindy Sutton to a 5-year term beginning immediately and ending 12/31/2028. Other than that, there was nothing else. I pass.
Thank you, Mr. Cheatham. Public Welfare and Safety, Mr. Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. President. Public Welfare and Safety met on March 25th, 2024, and we had nothing. And with that, I'll pass.
Thank you, Mr. Harrison. Rules, Marketing, Development, Ms. Gerhart.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Rules, Marketing, and Development Committee has nothing to report this evening, and I will pass. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gerhart.
Welcome.
City Utilities, Mr. Griffin.
Thank you, Mr. President. City Utilities met on March 25th, 2024. All members were present and guests as noted. We had several pieces of legislation to call for with emergency wording. Our first request was a request from Dennis Weaver, Utilities Director, to authorize a project cost increase from WWTP Phase 3B and 3C projects in the amount of $187,934.46 to change the value of the project cost from $7,285,878.54 to $7,473,813. Emergency worded was requested. We also had a request from Dennis Weaver, Utilities Director, to authorize an ordinance to change orders 3, 6, and 7 for the WWTP Phase 3B and 3C projects in the amount of $187,934.46. Emergency wording was requested on that also. C, we have a letter from Michael Diodecki, city engineer, requesting legislation authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Marks Construction for Snyder Avenue Stream Restoration and Flood Mitigation Project in the amount of $316,934.70. Emergency wording was also requested. Motion was made to accept the request. It was voted on and approved. We adjourn at 6:26. With that, I pass.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin. Finance and Personnel, Mrs. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a few updates from finance. Last week, we voted on a few ordinances, the first being the budget, which had passed. Second, a ordinance to enter into contract with OpenGov. And the third being to appropriate money from the general fund to the fire department's operating budget. We also had a few presentations from Insight and Bretzel. And then this evening, we met at 6:08 here in council chambers. All members of the committee were present, as well as guests noted on my sheet. We had two requests for legislation, the first being a letter from the mayor requesting a resolution approving a memorandum of understanding between the city, the Board of Education, and the Barberton Community Foundation. One reading and emergency wording is requested. There were a lot of questions from council members, so this is staying in committee until those questions are answered. Second being letter from Justin Greer, President of City Council, requesting legislation to amend Ordinance 73-2022, employee compensation and pay grades for non-bargaining employees. We suspended the 10-day rule so we could open this up for discussion, and it was ultimately amended to the original request that was submitted by Mrs. Eisman for reconsideration. We adjourned at 7:12, and with that, I pass.
Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. That concludes our individual committee reports. Is there anything from the body that they would like to share? All right, anything from the department heads? Got a couple things. Appreciate the dialogue and discussion today in the finance committee. It shows professionalism and the ability to listen and take into account everything that's being presented. Next week, we do not have council. That is the solar eclipse, so get out with your family. Don't travel if you don't have to. If you are, be careful. We do have some storms rolling in, potentially tomorrow, so just take precautions with that. And also, if you haven't got the memo yet about the 4th Street extension for the bridge over Lake Anna, I ask that you reach out to Mr. Tiadecki to get more information. He's too new. He don't know that one. Okay. That's a joke, by the way.
Fourth and West page.
Anybody watching or anybody in here? Gosh, it's April 1st.
4th and West page.
Yeah. Other than that, I don't have anything, so we'll hand it over to the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I had a meeting today with Director from WeWorks. If you're familiar with them, they big recyclers in the area. Lots of programs over the years that have come and gone, so trying to get some more programming here in town. So we'll be teaming up with them on several projects in town. We do have a city-sponsored bulk drop-off for residents this Saturday the 6th at the street department on Brady Avenue, and then also on Saturday the 20th. Residents must show proof of residency. There is a list of items that cannot be disposed of during that drop-off. And some of those things we're looking to schedule a specific, more individual time to drop those types of things off, like electronics, tires, things of that nature. So for this next couple of weeks, This will just be for any debris and trash. And the flyer does say what can and can't be dropped off. Was a ribbon cutting last week at Paula's Place at 638 West Tusk downtown here, so another new small business in town. Held that with the South Summer Chamber of Commerce. Just want to welcome them to town. I did have a fruitful meeting today that included Rutzel and Insight and others concerning the expansion of an existing business here in town. And just wanted to keep you up to date. This is one of the reasons that we have Rutzel and Insight, looking for funding opportunities, grant funding to help this business expand. So, all good things. As President Greer stated, the weather is changing. Wait 5 minutes, right? About 12 hours. The National Weather Service is calling for strong winds, large hail, possibility of tornadoes. The Barberton area is listed as moderate or enhanced risk. So moderate is the second highest, and then enhanced is the third. So we're kind of right in that area. So yes, please be careful and mindful of the weather changing here. And then the nasty S word I heard for the possibility at the end of the week. And then next Monday is supposed to be fairly nice. So don't put your winter clothes away just yet. And then just finally, my State of the City will be Wednesday, April 10th at the high school at 5 p.m. Any questions? Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. I had somebody asking, I was in the kitchen, so I can't hear anything. Did the sirens not go off Saturday at noon? People said they didn't. They're used to hearing them, and they didn't. Like I said, I'm in the kitchen, so I never hear them anyway.
I'm not sure. I was indoors at that time.
Yeah, I was asked if they even started the testing yet.
They go off till they don't go off till like,
Yeah, we had the emergency testing one, but that's all.
yeah, that was a kind of national.
Wednesday.
Couple Wednesdays ago.
national thing. So is that this Saturday? This Saturday? Wait until this Saturday.
Like I said, I can't hear it anyway.
Come on, over kitchen.
So yeah, come to think of it, I was inside, so I didn't pay attention either. So, any other questions? Yes.
Two of them. Do you know when street sweeping is going to begin again?
I believe that starts in May.
Okay.
We've been trying to get the street sweeper out to do some of the main thoroughfares, and I know that with some of the debris, it always gets kicked up on the sidewalks, trying to get the sidewalks swept into the street and bring the street sweeper out. I'm not sure how often it's been out, because it's been, just kind of crazy weather, but I know that they were sweeping some of the sidewalks in anticipation of bringing the street sweeper out, but they may have had it out, I'm not sure.
Okay. Secondly, you did mention the ribbon cutting last week. I know that I knew that was coming up, but I didn't know when. And I asked a couple of people, let me know. Came and went, didn't know anything about it. Nobody on council knew anything about it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that everybody, if they could have been there, would have been there to cheer this person on. So we were all a little bit disappointed that came and went without us knowing. Like, could we be kept in the loop on that? Like,
Yeah, I mean, sometimes we set those up, sometimes the chamber sets them up, sometimes the business, it's what's best for the business. So
Right.
yeah, I'll make note to.
I understand that,
Yeah.
sometimes maybe it's it's tomorrow, but none of us knew. And I know that I did ask several people, hey, tell me when that's gonna be, please.
Yeah.
And came and went.
Yep, no problem. All right, anything else? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. With nothing else from the body or anybody else, this meeting is adjourned at 7:39 p.m.
Take your little eclipse glasses.